Hi, I'm Vera, and today I'd like to tell you a story. A story about how we ensured our company's security and stability during the times of war. And I hope nothing of this will help with your organization in your life. And let's start with agenda. I decided to divide this presentation into 3 stages because these stages corresponds to the actual stages of your understanding of war from a civilian and company perspective. So the initial stage is planning because everything in our world starts with a good plan, almost everything. The next stage is times of actual full-scale war outbreaks, and this stage took around 2 months. And the final stage, and it's the one we still live as for today, is the stage when you get used to the state of war. So you adapt to almost any situation in this world, and it's good. So I'll finish with that stage and how we adapted. And the last and very useful part is that about lessons we've learned during this story. As I said, my name is Vera, and I'm a CTO of MacPo company. I take care of engineering, innovations, security, infrastructure, and office IT in our company. And to have a better understanding what our company is about and get more context, let me tell you a bit about our company. So what is MacPo? MacPo is a software development company. We are 14 years old, and we create mostly utilities for your MacBooks. And our apps installed on every fifth Mac in the world. So, we are happy that they're quite popular, and maybe you use some of them. Some names is CleanMyMac, X, ZDF, and ClearVPN. For me, the most favorite one is the Unarchiver, and it's because that I installed it. It was the first application I installed when I bought my first MacBook as a student. But we actually haven't developed it. We acquired it in 2017, but I'm honored to know that my company supports an app I installed when I was a student. We are headquartered in Kyiv, Ukraine, and it's quite important for this story because, actual war, it has a physical location, notion of it, and our team is around 500 of people. We mostly work on MacBooks. Some people decide to use iPads, but only as a secondary device, and we have a few Windows PC. And by the way, we use Jump to control and manage all that fleet. So I'm quite happy with it. So let's start with the initial stage, 0 stage. It's planning. Why we decided to plan? And that was because of that news. News from Western media and local media about plans of Russia, and we've seen that satellite images about the number of military vehicles and troops Russia aggregated around Ukrainian border. And it was very terrifying for us, and we decided to plan because Western intelligence agency were sharing their suggestion about the actual day or when the full-scale war will start, or Russia possible plans. And we decided to plan what should we do as a company, how to survive and be stable and secure. And the first thing to do is to decide on your priorities, because plan could be enormous and it's better, you can't do everything, so it's better to prioritize. So we come up with 2 main priorities. Our priority number 1 was about security and stability of our services. Because for your customer, it doesn't matter whether you have, let's say, some tornado or war or like pandemic. So they expect that the services they use, they just should work. And I understand it. I expect the same thing. But our priority number 0, so even higher priority, was focused on physical security of our team members, because it was like the most important things to ensure. But I won't cover this topic today and focus mostly on the technical side of it, so priority number 1. And after deciding on priorities, we created a list of possible risks we see. So that was our guesses what could happen if the war started. And I'll tell you about these risks. It's quite a long list, and I'll tell about some of them in details, but mostly cover like just as an overview. So we were expecting that there would be no internet in the whole Ukraine, that our infrastructure and cellular towers will be damaged, and like we couldn't operate because of no internet connectivity. So the next risk we saw was about like physical occupation of our offices by invaders. So it won't be possible to enter our offices and to do anything you need to do there. The next one is connected with cyber attacks to our services, and that's because modern wars, it's not only about some military stuff, it's also about cyber war. And as for today, we have like the biggest cyber war happening in the world. And as we are a public company in terms that we share our political opinions openly, our CEO sharing his opinions in his social media, so we are quite visible company for enemy. So we were expecting that we could be a victim of this cyber attack. So we were expecting this. And the next is also connected with our visibility. So we were expecting phishing attacks on our employees, and the enemy could use it as a source to distribute propaganda. For example, if they gain access to social media of our employees, they could just distribute some fake news or something else. So it's quite a powerful weapon, as we see. And the next one is connected with corporate social account that could be used to distribute propaganda, even with greater power. The next one is connected with unauthorized access to the MacBooks or iPhone of our employees. And it could happen because of person captivity by enemy, or maybe device could be lost during evacuation of a person, because evacuation, it's very like emotional. Times you're in a hurry and you can lost like everything. And also there could be hardware supply chain disruption. And I'm talking about MacBooks or maybe some network equipment, because we need MacBooks for new employees or as a replacement if something gets broken. And because of traffic jams on the roads, roads could be destroyed because of some shelling, so it could be almost impossible to deliver the new hardware. And the next one, and it's more about politics, it's about sanctions and war zone company status. So it could happen so that we could be treated as a some company from gray zone, and some service we use could decide not to dig deep and to understand the whole situation, and just that it's better not to work with us because something going on with this bigger risk and something going on with that company. So we could have service disruptions because of this. And after assessing our risks, we moved to planning. Our plan was like a simple spreadsheet, and this is how it looked at just a part of it. How it was created in a Google spreadsheet, one of my favorite instruments as a manager, and I'll stop only on the most important columns because there are lots of them. So the first one is about asset. So it's an asset we want to protect, and procedures described it in the plan should be applied to. And the next two, it's about actual procedure or like instruction you need to follow to execute that plan. And we had two procedures, like the main one and backup one if main won't work. And instructions were a very simple list of actions you need to follow to do something. And it's a great idea to keep it very simple. Because in times of emergency, you are getting very emotional, so you can't do anything very really complex. So it's better to keep it simple. And the next important column is responsible person, because if you want something to get done, it's better to decide on a responsible person. And the other columns were about statuses and related Jira tasks and so on and so forth. And now I'll cover more about what actions we planned. So we decided to start with creation of emergency team. So it was a special team with the main job is to ensure stability of our products and services. And we picked two people from each product or service. There was like two requirements for that people. The first one, that they should know enough about that products and service to be able to fix anything that could come up, and or at least know who to ask to fix something. And one more requirement is to move outside Ukraine, or at least to western regions of Ukraine, to stay in safe zone. So they must do this before the actual war. So it was like a part of the plan before the war. The next action we planned was code freeze. As one unofficial engineering principle says, if it works, don't touch it. So we decided to apply the same principle to our situation, and we decided to introduce code freeze regime for our products, for our infrastructure, and just freeze any changes to leave it in a stable condition. And only people from emergency team had the right to make those changes or approve it. And the job was to assess if the change is safe enough to be made, and is it really necessary to do right now. The next one is about remote work, and as you can see, I striked it through because we were ready for remote work because of pandemic times, and nothing else could be done to improve it. So it's kind of great to have war after pandemic, because you're already used to remote work. Then we decided to set up and use alternative communication channel, because in company we use Slack as the main communication service, but it's better to have it redundant, because communication is very important function to have working properly in times of emergency. So we decided to use Signal, and we asked our team members to install it in advance, and to write to your manager to check if everything works and everyone is covered. Then we plan to completely move our office infrastructure to the cloud, because actually we don't have a lot of it in our office. We started that movement long ago, but we had some remaining something left. And I'm talking about Mac Minis we use as a build agents for our Bamboo continuous integration system, and we use it to build our Mac products. So this situation was a great push to finish that movement and to switch to Mac Stadium, Azure pipelines, and Anka we use for now. And the next action was similar to the previous one, because we have Office VPN hosted in our office, and we decided to switch to Cloud VPN solution, and we picked Print Tunnel, and we are very satisfied with it, because especially our engineers, because it looks more geeky and it's much more customizable, so we are happy with that move. And to cover that risk with hardware supply chain disruption, we decided to buy laptops in advance to have some in our reserve to cover our needs in the future. And that risk about absence of internet, we decided to cover with a satellite internet, and I'll cover this one in detail a bit later. Satellite internet. Before this situation, I just know that this exists, that sometimes it's used with Marines, but I have no practical experience of a satellite internet, and that was my first one. So we bought 2 portable access points, a picture of them you see on the slide. The first one with a white sphere, it's MCD 4820, and the next one is BGAN Explorer 710. The first one is more powerful, and because he has auto-tuning possibility, and BGAN Explorer has a passive antenna, and you need to point it to the satellites using application on your mobile phone. So you need to first find where satellite is and just point that station to it. And we managed to install it and use it, but it was very expensive. And it was actually not that easy to buy, because you need to pass lots of examination at the customs. And it was not that easy to set them up. Our system administrator spent around a week to set them up, and he had to write instruction for future users how to use it. And so it wasn't that easy. And for all that money and with all that complexity, you get not that high-speed connection and quite high latency. It was good enough to to ensure that our emergency team could make some changes necessary, but still we wasn't very happy. And by the way, data plan was also expensive. So let's move to the next stage of actual full-scale war outbreak. It happened on 24th of February, and I was in Kiev that time, and I heard siren at 5 o'clock in the morning. And it was very shocking experience, even if you were kind of expecting it, but it's still a shock. And in the next picture, you can see a destroyed bridge over Irpin River. And Irpin River, it flows near Kiev, so in Kiev suburb area. And here you can see Ukrainian civilians who are trying to evacuate, and Ukrainian military men who are trying to help them to evacuate. And it's all happened, in the first week of war. So it was really fast-moving, occupation and action. And I want to stop a bit on day one, what we've done here. So on the day one, we just had a call. First one was with the executive team. And we were, sharing our emotional state, trying to understand what's going on and what we should do next. And we decided to activate our plan. We prepared. So from the first day, we decided to activate code freeze mode. We notified our product manager and the whole company about that regime. And so the first day for me was like full day. I was in the meetings implementing that regime and speaking with team. Our team members were trying to evacuate from Kiev to the Western Ukraine or to the Europe or to the whole world. And I'll stop on some cases we wouldn't expect it, but it happened. So something that we haven't planned for. And the first case is connected with that bridge, with that area where the bridge are located. And the case of MacBook we sent to our new employee 2 days before the full-scale war. And we sent it to that small city of Irpin. It's a Kiev suburb area. And you can see it on this map. It's on the west of Kiev between two red lines. And Irpin was occupied from the very beginning of invasion. And we sent that laptop using Nova Poshta. It's quite reliable and fast Ukrainian private postal and delivery service. And after several weeks, we decided to check that laptop, and we still saw it in a tracking system as it is in some dispatch center of Nova Poshta. Then and it's understandable, the dispatch center was occupied. And then we, after a month, we saw that MacBook back online in some region, in Chernigiv region, so it's a different, another Kiev region. And as we saw online, we started our investigation. Actually, we had a similar case with a stolen MacBook before, so we kind of know what to do. And that case was a successful one because we managed to find the thief. And so this time we did something similar, and our system administrators executed some scripts on that MacBook, and we were trying to gather some information for our investigation. So we tried to get geolocation, some social account names, and more information. And now this case is still open. We reported it to the police, and I hope it will be successful, but something we haven't expected. And the next one is also something we haven't planned, and it's about a small tool we created to solve one of our problems we come out. So as I told, at the first day, almost everyone from our team were trying to evacuate, to move outside of Kiev. And on the second day, it was not that easy to understand who is where, if everyone is safe, and it was not that easy job for a manager or for teammates to be sure that everyone is in safe zones. So a small team from our company decided to create a Slack application to fix that problem. By the way, that application, we call it Together App. It is available on our GitHub, and it is open sourced. So if you have similar task, you can use it if it's applicable to you. And the Slack application has one simple job. It asks you, each employee, each day, with like 3 questions. It asks, where are you? So just getting geolocation. Then it asks, are you safe? And are you able to work? Because for first 2 weeks, we were experiencing quite bad emotional state of our employees, and almost no one were able to work. And it's understandable. So we were just trying to estimate who could work or not. And this application has also one useful feature, especially for me, because each 3 days I received a special digest with a list of people who didn't check in during the last 3 days, but has some critical access to some service or has access to some critical data. And we were trying to connect to each person from that list and to check if everything is okay. And if we're unable to do it, we just revoked that access. So feel free to use it if you need to do something similar. And the next one is connected with that satellite internet, with that expensive and slow stations I showed you. And it's happened to be about Starlink, because before Starlink weren't available in Ukraine, but on 26th of February, so just 2 days after the full-scale war has started, Mikhailo Fedorov, our Ministry Digital Transformation, made a tweet and asked Elon Musk to provide Ukraine with Starlink. And as you see, Elon Musk replied that, okay, Starlink service is on, and terminals are en route. So, and after a month after that tweet, you can see me at the picture with Starlink station and in our office. And you can see 2 of our cats. And it was a huge deal for not only for us, but for our military, especially for our military people, because as for now, internet is operational in Ukraine, but it doesn't work in military zones and in occupied territories. So it's Starlink's quite useful there. And one, it's not a big change, but still for our company, it was something new, because first of all, we had to order laptops for our employees who are living outside Ukraine. And for us, it was a new experience. So we were buying them in local Apple stores, and to deliver laptops around Ukraine, it wasn't possible to do these delivery services we used before, and our system administrators sometimes were using the personal cars to do it. And let's move to the next stage. We are living in, as for today, it's stage 2. At that stage, we kind of get used to that state, and we decided to dissolve emergency team, so it doesn't exist anymore because we completely back to work. Actually, it happened on 14th of March when we made an announcement to the whole company that if you can work, just let's try to back to work, because we experienced low performance, understandable low performance at the beginning of war. And we continue to deliver from Kiev because 70% of our company is staying in Ukraine. And we made two small adjustments at that stage. First is really small, and it's about the Together app. And because our employees settled in some safe places, so we decided there is no need to check in each day. So we decided to reduce frequency of check-ins, and as for now, you need to check in only once a week with the same questions, and we have the same policy about revoking accesses if you don't check in for a long time. And another adjustment is connected with guys who are mobilized to the military, because as for now we have around 10 people who are serving in military. Half of them, by the way, more like a cyber soldiers, so they're helping to win cyber war. And we, as a company, had to create a new policy about using personal telephones and laptops by Z employees. So at this screenshot, you can see like colored rows, and they correspond to 3 groups. So we decided to separate into 3 groups based on the location of the mobilized employees. So first one, we treat it as safe, and it is when if you are located in a territory with no active military activities in it. The next one is potentially not safe, and so you are closer to the front line, but still like not take part in active military activities, and not safe if you're on the front line or defense line, because some of our mobilized employees, they serve from not from front line, they serve from bases. They can stay in Kiev or something else. And here you can see lots of columns with different rules we applied to protect data of our customers and our company. So if you are treated it as not safe, it's like you have almost no access. So you have no access to sensitive information. You have only guest account in Slack. So like you need to remove all the data. Nothing can be stored locally, and no privileged access. And safe mode is more allowing, almost without limitations. So what have we learned? The first one is that you do not neglect planning. And it's not only about that list of actual actions you need to follow. It's also about to plan make you more emotionally ready to that situation, because at the beginning, I remember my first meeting. It was not that easy to talk about possible war. It was very terrifying. But with each meeting, I was getting used to it. And on 24th of February, for me, it was still a shocking news, but I was more ready, even emotionally. So it's better to plan. And as we saw, you can't understand emergency until it happens. So when we were planning, we have some image of war and some understanding of it, and it was based on news, on previous wars, on movies and some books, our knowledge of World War II. But in reality, it's completely different, and we had lots of cases we hadn't expected. So you really can't understand anything, any emergency. And to cover this, next time it's better to talk to companies that had similar experiences, that the companies that already know what to do and was in that emergency situation. Also, it's good to write your emergency procedures as very simple to follow instructions, because in state of emergency you can't think, you can't do anything complex, so you can only do very easy to follow tasks. So keep it as easy as possible. And the last one is about changes. That at the stage 0, initial stage, changes were very swift, like situations were changing each minute. It's really each minute. So you need to be able to make quick decisions and adapt really fast, and to pick people to that emergency team who are able to do so, who are more stress resilient and could perform under such pressure. So this is the end of the story as for now, and as for now it seems like a successful story. It is actually, because we've managed to ensure our company's security and stability in times of war. We released several big updates during that time, and even release some new products. So it's really possible to operate normally even in times of war. We experience some difficulties with creative work, but it's still doable. So thanks for your attention. I hope to see you next year. Bye.